First slide. What's in your tomb? Right? What's in your tomb? I was thinking about this talk 6 weeks or so ago, and the first piece always for me is the title. And the title really helps me shape where I'm headed with it. So for me, the title is really important. And it wasn't coming to me, And I think we had a prayer group. I think it was our Thursday morning group. And we're reminding ourselves of the way things come to us. Sometimes in a flash, we let go, it goes away. So that evening we were putting dishes away, and I thought, tomb. Where's your tomb? Your tomb. And all of a sudden I went, what's in your tomb? Right? What's in your wallet? Well, more important, what's in your tomb? And it resonated with me so that for the last several weeks I've been thinking about what's in my tomb? Right? Also, what's in my tomb? So let's work through some of this. Jesus was on a path in his life, just like we're on a path in our lives, right? And we continue to look at our path, and we continue to wonder, what is the next best thing for me, right? What is the next greater good for me? Exactly as Jesus did in his life. He knew he was here for a greater good. That was his whole mission. He knew that, and he carried that through his whole life. Unity has a marvelous metaphysical interpretation of this whole Easter process. So we have the arrest, we have the trial, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and many days later, the ascension. And that's what we're going to look at this morning. So, like Jesus, we may become arrested, right, by negative thoughts and attitudes. You're headed down this path, and you're headed in a fresh direction, and you've got a new idea, and you just know it's going to work. And somebody says, are you sure? Do you really think that's going to work? Are you putting your energy in the right place? Are you putting your eggs in the right basket? Right? And we start to stop, right? Our hopes, our dreams, our visions become arrested by this. They become captured. And we might take a step back and go, I'm not so sure. Is this really it or not? Okay? In the same way, Jesus was arrested, right? He was arrested, he was brought in, yet he knew his path. He went along with the flow, even though he knew what this intermediate outcome would be, and that it would be a painful intermediate outcome. He knew it was his path, and he stayed with that path. And then we may be put on trial, right? Challenges ahead. On trial to hold that vision. Again, we might say, I'm going to stay here, but it often doesn't end there. Then we may start to doubt. We start down that path and things don't come to us quite as quickly as we hoped, or in the way that we thought they would, right? Sometimes we have our own picture of what this is going to look like. And we're so focused on that picture, we don't see the real picture unfolding right next to us. So we get these challenges. We're put on trial. People may ask us questions like a trial. How are you going to do this? What's your first step? Who are you going to talk to? Where are you going to get the resources? Right? Just like a trial. Now, when Jesus was brought in, he could have at that time said, I don't really think I want to go through this whole thing, right? He could have done that. He could have said, I think maybe I'll just walk away right now and let you folks fight it out among you, and I'll say, no, I'm not the king, and I'll just go and live in the desert somewhere and we'll all be happy, okay? But Jesus knew differently. He knew that he was on this planet for a reason. And we actually don't find this in the resurrection story. But Jesus was in his resurrection story his entire life, right? We find this in John 12. Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, for this purpose I have come to this hour. And we get to be reminded in our own lives, for what purpose are we here? And it may not always, in the short term, be real easy. But if we know that's our purpose, we can stick it out. We can face the trial and we can face the challenges and we can remind ourselves, but wait a minute, this is what I'm about. It might not be easy right now. And then we always get prayer and meditation in unity, right? And we get to go back to our source of our energy and say, I could use a little help here, right? I could use a little support here. Tune back into that divine source and remind ourselves that if it's our path, the path will be made clear, right? The path will be made clear. And just because we have challenges doesn't mean it's not our path, right? That doesn't mean it's not your path. Then we have another piece in the same passage in John. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Okay, let's stay with this a minute, because now we've moved through the arrest, the trial, and now we're coming to the crucifixion piece, which many faiths celebrate, hold holy, let me say, on Good Friday. So let's look at this a little closer. If it falls into the earth and dies, okay, what is death?
Birth.
A transformation, birth, a new beginning, a casting off, right? A casting off to be in a different place. Shing and I were doing some digging in some dirt this week, and as we were pulling up the shovelfuls, we came across a couple of little seeds, right, that were open and a little blossom, whatever, one of our lovely Arizona wildflowers was opening right inside there, and this cap was hanging on top, right? The seed cap was just hanging on top. That seed cap was dead, right? It's dead. It is cast off. It is gone. And it needs to go away for the life to emerge within. It needs to be cast off. Has anybody had garden seeds in a packet year after year after year? Are they growing? No. They're not growing. There's nothing going on with those seeds.
In the packet.
Right? They're in the packet. They need to be put in the ground and nurtured and watered and cared for in order to cast off that shell and become their true self. So if we think about that and look at this again, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies of its old self, right? Dies of its seed nature, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies to its seed nature, it bears much fruit. And that's what this death is about. Just like you all said, rebirth, reborn, a chance to be again. And you know, that really is why we celebrate Easter in the spring. That's not an accident. That comes from very old traditions, celebrating in the spring. Have any of you gone for a little walk lately and seen all the things that are budding up right now? And you know what? It almost doesn't matter where you are. I lived in Wisconsin for many years, in Minnesota before that, and Montana in between there. And there's something about the Easter time, there's always something that's budding up. I went for a little walk around our yard yesterday and found some crocuses. I didn't put those in the ground, someone else did. But what a wonderful surprise to see these little purple blossoms. And some of the irises are almost ready to open. And we have here, I was hoping this one might open for this morning, but that one's just almost getting ready to open right there, another blossom. So things bear much fruit. And this is our season, our springtime, when we get to see that all around us, the new growth. So here's the ultimate question. What do you want to be reborn to? And what must you let go of to get there? What do you want to be reborn to? And what must you let go of? Kim Chambers is doing our book group right now. And I confess I have not had the time to keep up with the book or the group. But I did read the first part of the book. And this is the book, Falling into Grace. And what struck me in the first part of this book is he talks about letting go of your story. your story? Right? What's your story that you're carrying around with you? I am this way, I am that way, I was this way, I hope this, I desire this, I dream this, I look this way, I like to eat this, whatever. What is your story? Is there anything in your story it's time to release?
All of it.
All of it. Because when we continue to hang on to the story of yesterday, where are we?
Yesterday.
We are in yesterday. Okay? So maybe it's all in your story. Maybe it's a little piece of your story. Maybe it's most of your story. But that really struck me, that piece about story. What is my story? Because whatever my story is, that's what got me here. Okay? I like a lot of my story. Okay? And I like being here, where I am now. Yet I also know there are pieces of my story that I can let go. And it is time to release. Because if I don't, I will stay here now. Right? I want to be here now. But a month from now, I want to be somewhere else. I don't mean physically. I mean spiritually. I want to continue to grow. I want to be more all the time. And if I want to be more all the time, there's some piece of my story I need to let move on. I need to drop. I need to let go of. So this is the question. Right? What is your dream? What is your vision? What is your ideal? And what do you need to release to get there? Ideas, attitudes, beliefs, fears, anxieties, frustrations? What is it that needs to go away for you to be reborn? Right? What is that dead seed cap? Right? That's keeping you wherever you are. What is that dead seed cap that you now can push right off the top, right? As you continue to grow and emerge. And be willing to let go of that seed cap. Because that seed is also protection, right? That seed shell, that's also protection. So those little plants, they keep that seed shell for a while. It doesn't go right away. It stays until it is absolutely ready and it is dead and it is gone. Unfortunately, we carry around our dead seed caps sometimes, right? We just carry them around. We just carry them around because we need to push them away. We need to burst ourselves through and get rid of that. So we can look to Lao Tzu, who says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Isn't that a good one to question for all of us? Mm-hmm. What are their habits we have? Are there any of those we're ready to chuck? Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So this reminds us of all of those pieces along that path, any part of which we might now be thinking about releasing as part of our story. Some attitudes, some beliefs, some thoughts, some words. I said some words again this morning, actually, that I thought, oh, and I actually caught myself in a moment, and I changed the words right then. But that's part of our story, is those words that we're used to uttering. Or we can simply say, you can't reach for anything new if your hands are still full of yesterday's junk. Right? And that's what this rebirth is about. That letting go of something so you can grab on to something else. Gus is looking at being in Benson. He's been back and forth now for a little while. And was saying he had a yard sale this weekend. Okay? There's one of our metaphors, right? Is physical stuff in our life that this is also a good time to get rid of some of that stuff. Where does spring cleaning come from? Right? That's what that's about. Refreshing, renewing, releasing. And every time we get rid of physical stuff, doesn't it also give you a little sense of lighter? You feel a little lighter that you've been able to get rid of that physical stuff? And how much lighter don't we feel when we can get rid of some of those old attitudes and those old beliefs and some of those things that are arresting us and holding us back? And the fifth piece of this is ascension, right? That we then ascend into a higher state reflected in body, mind, and circumstances. Whoops, it looks like my margin forced my period to drop to the next line. That's why it's there, period.
I think it's kind of cool.
You like it? Okay, great. So the fifth piece is ascension. And that's what happens with us, right? When we go through this rebirth resurrection process, we ascend, and it's reflected in body, mind, and circumstances. We feel lighter. We get that physical confidence that we're on the right path. The mind says, yeah, I'm focusing, and I know what I'm focusing on, and I know why I'm focusing on. And circumstances, right? Everything that's going on in our lives can start to move and shift and respond to where we are saying we want to be. So, what's in your tomb? Are you in your tomb? Okay, are you in your tomb? That's the first thing we need to do, right? Is get ourselves out of there. When Mary Magdalene came to the tomb on what we now call Easter Sunday, and the angel was there and said, "He is not here, he is risen." And the garments in which he were buried was all that was left in the tomb. Right? He left behind the old coverings, the seed shell, the old story, whatever it was. That's the only thing that was in the tomb. Jesus wasn't in the tomb anymore. And we don't want to be in the tomb. We don't want to be there. But we sure wouldn't mind leaving behind some of that stuff, right? Let's leave that stuff in the tomb. And we can put the stone back in front of the door even if we want to. And say, you just stay in there. Because I really don't want you anymore. I don't want you to come visiting anymore. So what's in your tomb? And what do you want to put in your tomb this morning? Isn't that pretty? The opening rose, opening peony perhaps. So we can release and we can affirm. Unity is very much grounded in denials and affirmations. This is a denial. I release what binds me to a way of being I am ready to let go of. Can you all say that with me, please?
I release what binds me to a way of being I am ready to let go of.
Okay, there's a lot in this. I release. That means you need to release, right? Nobody can release for you. That's something you need to do. And it's not always easy to release that thing that's been part of your story for so long. I release what binds me to a way of being I am ready to let go of. Are you ready? That's the question. Are you ready? Because you need to be ready. You need to be ready. And I think it's a good idea not to try to let go of something that you're not ready to let go of. Right? There's that internal work of being ready to let go. Because what happens when you let go of something that you weren't quite ready to let go of?
Bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back. Does anybody ever put stuff in a bag or a box or and you were donating it, right, to a thrift store, and you bring all the stuff down there, and then you're looking through your closet going, what did I do with that shirt? Did I put that in the box for the thrift store? I really want that back. Right? Does that ever happen to you, that you've given away something, or a tool, or something, and you realize you really weren't ready to let that one go yet? But maybe in 3 days you're going to be ready, or 4 days or a week, because you go back to the thrift store and it's not there anymore. Somebody else has got it, so you bless it on its way. Right? But there's an internal work that we want to do, so we are ready to let go of whatever that is, so we can truly let it go with joy and release and peace and calm. Okay? And then let's share an affirmation. I'll read it first. I affirm that the resurrecting power of life is now lifting me beyond all restrictions and uncertainty and that new possibilities are unfolding right now, like the blossoms of spring. Okay, so say this with me.
I affirm that the resurrecting power of life is now lifting me beyond all restrictions and uncertainty, and that new possibilities are unfolding right now, like the blossoms of spring.
I just realized that I never turned my mic on.
Gosh, we
Well, and, but you heard it anyway, didn't you? Okay. So we affirm this resurrecting power, and we look at some of these words, lifting me, right? Lifting me beyond restrictions and uncertainty, whatever has been binding, or whatever you just may haven't been sure of. Be sure. Be sure. Get to that place inside of you that tells you exactly what this new piece of you is. And that new possibilities are unfolding right now, even though you may not see them. They are unfolding right now. When this lily starts growing, do we see it? It's underneath there in the dirt someplace, right? We don't see it, but it's still unfolding. Like the blossoms of spring. I also want to share this rather sad-looking plant with you. This was really big, this aloe vera. It was really big about 2 months ago. And suddenly, it started shedding. It just dropped. And they were long, right girls? They were long, fat things like this. It just started dropping them one after another, after another, after another, until it was down to 2. And now there's a third one coming up in the middle. Okay? It just reminds me that we have these metaphors all around us. For some reason, this plant was going, I'm too big. I don't want all this stuff anymore. I'm carrying too much weight, right? I don't want to drag this stuff through life anymore. I want to get rid of this. Dumped. Branch. And we're like, what are we doing? Watering too much? Watering nothing up? It was just dropping. And then it stopped. And now it's rebuilding itself from the base up. So we have these metaphors for our lives all around us. And before I close, I also want to mention unity of Payson. Because isn't unity of Payson part of our unfolding story?
Absolutely.
And ask us all, what is our part in continuing, let's say continuing to birth unity of Payson? Unity of Payson is still very much in a being born process. Okay? And to ask us all, what is it that we can do as we grow our own lives to also look at unity of Payson and say, what can we do in this community to help this church become a greater influence in this town, right? To become a bigger part of this town's story and what goes on here.
And in our lives.
And in our own lives, yes, absolutely, yes. So I leave you with that. I'm going to ask you to say the affirmation with me one more time.
I affirm that the resurrecting power of life is now lifting me beyond all restrictions and uncertainty,